And my 25-year-old son told me that he found our Chihuahua treading water in the jacuzzi. A jacuzzi that is behind a fence, and the Chihuahua cannot climb into it by themselves. It turned out that one of our neighbors, we suspect the neighbor in number 8, because we live in an area where there's literally like no one else around except for like a small handful of people that we already know, and one new neighbor who's already done several fucking super suspicious things. And basically, like, the guy took our Chihuahua and threw him. Derek Jr. says he was behind the little like fence, and so he picked him up and put him in the jacuzzi to kill him. And if Derek Jr. hadn't heard him like treading water and panting when he walked out to smoke a cigarette, like, he would have died. And I don't know how long he was in there when he plucked him out of the water. So like, I'm having one of these moments where the police were called, the landlord was notified, but like, it's making me feel like these studies I've read about human beings, but for one to do that with their own fucking neighbor, what is going on here? I just drove past a car where a guy is like panicking trying to get into the vehicle, and he's like waving at traffic, and there's another car in front of him, and I'm a little confused, and I'm like a single one in a car, and there's like just 20 cars passing him, and I'm just wondering, like, should one of them try to like help him out? Like, should I circle back? Should I see if he's okay? And like, should a grown man help him? Because how am I going to get anybody out of the car if he has somebody stuck in the car? I don't know. Or maybe it's some mystic fight and I really shouldn't pull over. There's a whole shitload of people behind me though. Like, I mean, like literally 20 cars just passed him. And the guy looks stronger than me. So if he can't get the car door open, he needs to flail down a man. So, okay. Meaning he looks like he's a man in his strength and his youth, and like usually they have more leverage power. So I'm not going to go over there just in case it was like his girlfriend in the car and she's locked him out on purpose. Okay, so anyways, yeah, so there's no really other option. There's no other people in the area we live in. It's sort of like we live in this Box Canyon area. All the other neighbors have been around Simon for like 7 months. Longer than that. It's been almost a year now, actually. And nobody's ever had a problem with the little Simon Chihuahua. Everybody in the neighborhood's good to him, but there's been this new neighbor guy who moved in number 8 who's been acting super weird. Several little incidents have gone on with him where he's threatened people and acted super weird. And he doesn't seem right in the head. And so this latest incident, that's like some Glenn Close shit, to pluck a little tiny like 10-pound Chihuahua out of a yard and put it in a jacuzzi that it cannot get out of, so it's just treading water, and just to look at it and walk away. That guy's got to be such a sick fuck that, like, you have to wonder, society, there's something wrong with society, because people like this, like, how do they get to adulthood alive? They went through elementary school, they had a primary school education. How did the other children not get rid of him? How did his grandmother not take him on a visit to the Grand Canyon and tell the other kids there was something fancy to look at in one direction and just shove him off? I don't know the answer to that question. How did society not realize that a person that's like that shouldn't make it out to pay rent and live next to other people? Oh, because the human race is shit. And you can't try to make it special, like white people different, black people different. No, the human race is shit. If you find a person who's not shitty, it's a very tiny, small percentage. You want me to demonstrate? Andrew Bustamante's book, CIA book author, says the CIA trains you to look for the 1 out of 5 people who's basically born without a conscience. The CIA baby study, or the Yale baby study, Karen Wynn and other researchers have worked on, proves that 20% of babies are born without what we would traditionally consider a conscience. The CIA book author demonstrates that they never develop one their entire lifetime. The Pareto effect, the 80% producers, 20% exploiter or scrounger effect, is present and all mammalian community species on Earth. When they put little collars on lions, they observed it. They found it even with spiders. Spiders aren't even mammals. And like, so like dogs, so like 20% of a species, like basically exploit their own on Earth. It's not just humans, it's the whole Earth. And it's a sort of intra-species evolutionary sort of process is what they say. And like, you know, like everybody else is taught, oh, it's other species compete against one another, but your own species is always on your side. Be good. But 20% of them are out to get you, according to everybody. Okay, so moving on from there, 1 out of 5 people does not have a conscience, and they value their image more than they value their authentic self. Shame did not drive them there. They were born that way, baby. There was no trauma, there was no bad childhood that put them there. They were born there. Next, they stayed there their whole life. Next, it's a species-wide, intra-species evolutionary design on planet Earth. Next, they just don't teach you in school because the economic system's kingpin is trafficking. Next, because if you're in the 80% producer class, they want to keep you in it by a slave religion or a slave mentality. Next. Anything else? Oh, anything I say from day to day, I make no commitment to previous opinions I've had or to future opinions I will ever state. The opinion I have is only the opinion I supposedly have at this moment. I'm not even sure about that. And I make no commitment to any of it. I'm just an artist expressing myself. Next. I got that one from Into the Fray. Next. What else do we want to get? Next. It's just so fun saying next. Next. It's just fun saying next. 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 Oh, Yale baby study. Okay. They found that about 80% of babies, 75 to 80% of babies are essentially pro-social. What we consider pro-social. However, even though almost 80% of babies are basically prefer like helper puppets in a show and they vote with their eyes, if they're confronted with a choice, if they have a cracker they've developed a fondness for, and it turns out that a bad guy likes the same cracker, when they're watching a puppet show, they change teams to the bad guy team. 66%, not 66% of the 80%, but 66%, because that would only be like 40 something percent or something like that now. 66% of all people. So 20% are just bad. 66% look good, and boy do they enjoy a kumbaya moment like anyone else. They love a cookie with a friend. But they love a cookie with an enemy also. And any enemy will do. Whoever's the strongest leader in the room, their frontal lobe essentially turns off, and they're biologically wired this way from birth. No trauma necessary. Get their kicks on Route 66. They switch teams. It's like if you were trying to like jump across a pond, and it could turn into a raging river. You don't know how deep it is, whatever. And there's like rocks, and some rocks stay in the same place, and other places there's no rock there at all. But certain rocks look like they're there, but the minute you jump on them, they flip. And it turns out that it's almost all the rocks. You learn not to trust them. Anyways, especially when you eat them. You want to have it hurt your feelings, but when you realize, like, if you were ever like exposes certain level of child abuse as a child is like nothing anyone ever does should shock you. In fact, is it more irritating that the 66% will change teams and go along with the worst of the worst at a moment's notice? Like, they'll look like they mean it. They'll look like they loved all the good stuff that you love, but they can switch like that. Only 13% of babies were ethical and could remain ethical under the conflict of a cracker with a friend. If the friend was a bad guy and they liked the same cracker. 13%. Sometimes I think these are the 13 tribes of Israel, because it's actually 13 tribes. Like, there's 13 lunar months, 13 zodiac signs. Like, there's 13% of babies that could withstand the pressure. And that it's like a metaphor, and that the promised land was God, like, just trying to get rid of them. Since the God of the Bible seems like a pretty bad guy. Hard to say.